Tiger fans. Okay. I did not think after only 3 measly games that I was going to be able to come on here and I'd be worried about talking too long over a video. Well, all the points and all the things I want to cover today in this video because after 3 games, right now, the fan base is irate. People are jumping off the deep end and acting like that the sky is falling. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not making excuses for this team. I'm not going to come on here and tell you that everything's good. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, even though after 3 games, after of a 162 game schedule, there's still hope. I want to get through this, make every point that I possibly can, and be as real as possible. So here we go. 3 games into this season, they have played like dog shit. The offenses look like shit. The defenses look like shit. The bullpen has looked like shit. They do not look like a major league ball club. Everything that we had saw in spring, none of it is carried over. This team has looked lost. This team has not looked anything like the vision that Scott Harris has laid out for controlling both sides of the strike zone was supposed to be. First things first, they get shut out opening day. Now, in this game, this was probably the best game of the series. This game, the Tigers had a lot of traffic on the base paths. They're facing Shane McClanahan, who is a near Cy Young winner. You understand this game, but you were happy about the amount of base runners that were there. Ryan Kreidler got robbed by Manuel Margot, which would have put a couple of runs on the board and made a 4-0 game look a little bit closer. That's a loss that you could stomach a little bit. Game 2, Spencer Turnbull's making his debut after coming back from Tommy John surgery. First time in Major League games that count on a Major League mound. This game is over by the third. It's 8-0. He starts the game out by loading the bases, somehow wiggles out of it after giving up 1 run. Second inning, same shit, and jams, no command, had no feel for a slider, fastballs down the middle. Guys are just ripping balls like it's a fucking pinball machine, and they're going for the high score. Horrible. It was 8-0 after 3 innings. And this game all around was bad. The defense was horrible. Matt Vierling looks lost out in the outfield. Like fucking someone give him Google Maps to find a fucking fly ball. Looks lost out there. Riley Green misplaying shit in the ceiling because it's like the Metrodome all over again, where you can't find anything in the because of the color of the fucking ceiling in a dome. Base running was bad. They didn't get a fucking run until garbage time when it was 10-0. Miguel Cabrera gets a worthless fucking hit. It was a joke. 8-0 in the third. The game was over. Horribly played defense. It was just all around bad. And then today, Joey Wentz pitched a great game today. Erod pitched a great game on opening day. There's nothing you could do or bitch about for Joey Wentz. But again, the bullpen, which has been shaky so far, every time out, man. You know, so far the only person in the bullpen that's looked okay was Tyler Alexander, even though he allowed a couple earned runs, but he had 7 strikeouts. Just no consistency. Joey Wentz pitched good enough to win that game. They got fucking no hit through 6 innings. And they probably would have got no hit if it wasn't the Rays being the Rays and not letting, Jeffrey Springs go out there. Horrible at bats, 0-2 to start, 12 strikeouts through 6 innings. Like, are you fucking serious? What is this bullshit? What is this philosophy? What is this viewpoint if they're supposed to control the strike zone on both sides of the ball? Well, guess what? They're not doing either. All the walks, and 12 strikeouts in 6 innings? Are you fucking shitting me? It was a pathetic display. And I don't even give a shit that they're 0-3. I don't. because we're going to move on to the next point of this. I just need to vent about the fucking dog shit we saw the first 3 games, and now they're going to Houston. It's one thing if you're 0-3 and you had some games, the offense looked a little bit better, and the defense played how they needed to play, but this team looked lost out there and how inconsistent their pitching was. I was worried in spring coming over about how their pitching was going to look because it looked bad in spring. And now it's looked bad again in the regular season. So let's move on. I just need to take a breath here. Let's move on to what people need to realize. First off, people, we all expect an improvement from a 65-win team last year. I think they're going to win 75 games this year. But basic math still says that's 12 fucking games under 500. What we're seeing out of this team is what a 12 games under 500 team plays like. They play like shit. They don't beat good teams. They're inconsistent. So people who are all coming out, jumping off the ship, and they're saying the season's already over after 0-3, listen. If they win 75 games, they're 12 games under 500. That's almost a 90-loss team. They're a par for the fucking course at this point at 0-3. I don't understand why people are talking about this team like there's an expectation, like there's a potential division winner or a wild card thing, and they're jumping ship already. And you look at like game day threads like on Reddit, and there's like 2,000 comments on the thread, and people jumping ship, and it's like, this is what you're in store for. You're not a winning team. This is not a ball club that is going to do anything. If they win 75 games or 12 games under 500, this is what you see out of teams like that. 75 wins is not good. But what people should be pissed about, and not even so much so the record, it's the fucking play. Because the whole thing and the whole point about this entire season is seeing progress. It's seeing this philosophy implemented. It's seeing these players grow. It's seeing who the potential core is. It's seeing who's going to be here for the future. But my fucking thing is, and what's pissing me off is they have these shit-ass fucking players that they have to carry over from Al Avila, like Jonathan Scope, who's still out there getting at bats, and that bum-ass fucking scrub Javier Baez, who's still getting at bats because you have to give him at bats because you paid him all this money and you need him to do good this year, so he opts the fuck out and leaves. And then Miguel Cabrera's old decrepit ass is out there, and I know it's his last season, but you know something? I don't give 2 shits that it's last season. The only reason why it is his last season and not last year was his last season because he had 31 million reasons to come back. That dude don't give 2 shits if he plays once a week or once a month. Flat out. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Miguel Cabrera because I'm appreciative of what he did for the franchise, but flat fucking out, he does not care about how much he plays. He's simply here to collect a paycheck this year. And I don't understand how we're supposed to see a leap forward and a philosophy change when we still got these bums that are in the lineup and taking at bats. So, it's 3 games, guys. Honest to God, it's 3 games out of a 162-game season. If they win 75 games, it's 12 games under 500. They're right on pace for that. With the overall record, it doesn't matter. What we need to see is better at bats. What we need to see is not 12 strikeouts in 6 innings. What we need to see is not 2 runs, or what did they score? 3 runs scored in 3 games. That's not what we need to see. We need to see competitive games against tough teams. This Rays team, if they already got swept, but every game was close, you can hang your hat on something like that. What you can't hang your hat on is being fucking blown out in the second game, 12-1, and then getting no hit through 6 innings, and Jake Rogers hits a fucking home run to even make it. They get 2 hit. You can't hang your hat on that. We need to see it better at bats. We need to see good defense being played. We need to see this core gelling. Now, I'm going to flip-flop and play the other side of the coin here because you can't just scream and yell and stomp your feet over spilled milk. The fucking 3 games happened. They're 0-3. They got swept. It didn't look good. You can't cry over spilled milk. You fucking put your pants back on the next day, and you get ready to go play Houston. End of story. So flipping over a new leaf, it's 3 games. If you look at this roster, and let's focus on the pitching first, AJ Hinch doesn't know this bullpen yet. Guys, if you remember 21, the first half of 21, Hinch really developed that pen into what it was. Hinch is extremely good at putting arms in leverage situations where they exceed the most. Right now, with how many different arms there are in this pen and guys that weren't there, I mean, you're looking at a pen. I wasn't a big fan of Joe Jimenez, and I think he was extremely overrated. So Soto was a good arm, and Cisneros was a good arm, and Foley's a good arm, and Will Vest was a good arm last year for you, but he's not even on the Major League roster. Alex Lang finally got some innings in because they needed to give him some innings because there are already 3 games of the season he hasn't played. But this bullpen is yet to take shape. Hinch is yet to figure out who he can trust. Hinch is yet to figure out where he's going to put these guys. I mean, Trey Wingenter finally made his Major League debut since 2019 the other day. And there's going to be guys like Trevor Rosenthal, who hasn't pitched in a couple years, who's eventually going to make it into this bullpen. Hinch is trying to figure it out. And I think once Hinch figures it out and figures out what guys work best in certain leverage situations against certain handedness and where he could stick them in for 3 batters, the bullpen will settle down. I'm not too worried about that because Hinch took a bullpen that didn't even have that great of guys in the start of 21, and then look what he did in 22. With all the pieces there and how good that that bullpen was. I think that there's I'm going to give Hinch the benefit of the doubt. I think there's potential there once he figures it out. As for the starting rotation, you got 2 good starts out of 3. Turnbull's making his Major League debut after over a year, since 21. There's nerves there. His command was shaky. Turnbull's never been a guy that's had great command anyways. He really started to clean it up a bit in 21 before he got hurt. I think there's nerves there, but you don't know yet. And Tommy John's a very weird thing. He could be ass the rest of the season. He could sort it out. You still haven't got Lorenzen back yet. You're going to get to see what Matt Boyd is going to do against Houston. Joey Wentz really looked great, in his first time through after having a miss spring. Erod did enough to win a game if you had an offense that was worth a shit to back him up and a defense that could play. So, that's from the pitching aspect of it. Now, if you look at from an offensive side, if you were blind and you could only listen to the game, you'd think the Tigers' offense was great with the amount of contact they had made in the first couple of games of this series. But since you have eyes and you can read a box score, you realize they were fucking dog shit. But there was a few positives. Austin Meadows had a nice series, except for the last game, because no one had a good game in the last game. Austin Meadows did have a good series. He had an extra base hit, a few singles. Spencer Torkelson is still ripping the ball. The shift absolutely up the middle absolutely destroyed him of a couple of hits. He had a couple of line drive outs at 110 miles an hour, so he's still ripping the ball. So there's that, and really that's it. That I can really even try to make a positive out of this garbage shit sandwich that was the opening 3 games of this season. You look at the rest of the lineup. Matt Vierling had a horrible display right off the rip. Nick Maton only played in a couple of the games. He did draw a walk, so that was which was the only base runner that Jeffrey Springs gave up. So I guess you could consider that a positive. Riley Green has not looked good right off the rip. A lot of pop-ups, a lot of ground-outs to first base, a couple of strikeouts. So that is what it is. Jonathan Scope is doing Jonathan Scope things, still not hitting. Eric Haas is off to a slow start, so I imagine that Jake Rogers will probably get 2 or 3 in Houston, considering he hit a home run today. Javier Baez is looking horrible, even though he did hit a ball to the warning track, but he's still looking horrible. Swinging at everything, and yeah. The offenses look like how the offense looked last year. But, like I said, we're 3 games into this season. It's literally 3 games. I don't understand why people are coming out and acting like this team has playoff aspirations and they're trying to jump off the ship right now. Listen, the ship never set sail. This boat was still in the water, sunk. And they're out there with a ship trying to tow it out. So stop acting like they were going somewhere. Like I said, I'm going to keep regurgitating this. If they win 75 games, that's 12 games under 500. They're par for the course right now at 0-3. This is probably a pace that they're going to play at. 4-6, 3-7 for the majority of the season. They'll have a couple of weeks in there where they win 6 and a couple of weeks in there where they win 5. That's how they're going to get to even the improvement. But, it is what it is. But Tiger fans, come on, guys. Stop freaking out and acting like, that this is a surprise that they came out and got swept, that this is a surprise that they're 0-3. It's not. But what we need to see is better at bats. We need to see way better defense, and we need to see the bullpen settle down. And you guys need to settle down with your expectations. Because it's 3 fucking games, for Christ's sakes. I fully expect the Tigers to go into Comerica Park for their opening day against Boston when I'm there at 1-5. I really do. I think they're going to take one game in Houston. They're going to have just to get off the schneid, and then Houston's going to take the next couple, even injured as they are. Their pitching is so good. That team is still really good. It's going to be a tall task. The Tigers are honestly going through a buzzsaw right out the rip. But what I'm hoping is in the coming weeks, Scott Harris he's been here for 6 months, guys. A lot of these players here, this is still Al Avila's roster. This is a lot of Al Avila's team. Harris and Hinch are trying to take this team that was built poor as shit and try to turn it into something. Basically they're putting perfume on a pig right now and trying to pass it off as a beauty queen. We're just trying to see progress. And honestly, this is a year that 75 wins, which is pathetic, is progress. And you hope next year they're in the 80s and competing for a wild card team because a lot of these contracts fall off and there's more space. Oh, and I don't want to forget about Kerry Carpenter. Kerry Carpenter had a couple of doubles and, he's continuing to hit, the whole reason why he was put on the roster. But here's to hoping in the next couple of games in Houston, the at-bats get better. They have to get better because you can't strike out 12 times in 6 innings. That's unacceptable, especially for a team that their whole mantra is controlling both sides of the strike zone. You got to get better than that. You can't have that. And their defense needs to tighten up. But, I think give his team a few more weeks, give his team 30 games, and I think the progress is going to be a little more apparent. We're going to see better at-bats. We're going to see better defense. And you also got to realize, too, guys, like these guys like Maton and Vierling who are spot or were everyday starters. Now, they weren't everyday starters with the Phillies. They were bench guys. Now they're everyday starters. And one of them's playing out of position in Maton at third base. He's played some third, but not as consistent as Hinch is going to put him there. So, like, this is all different for these guys. These guys are getting everyday at-bats. This team is, got Zach McKinstry made the roster. There's new players, new faces, new philosophy. So I think it's going to take a little bit of time to gel and, what the vision is and what we're hoping to see. I don't think it's going to start shining through to probably 30, 40 games into the season, sadly. But, I think this is the start of the change, and it's going to be rough in the beginning. And we're going to see like shit like we saw, this first 3 games with Tampa. But it is what it is, You got to start somewhere to progress somewhere else. That's all there is to it. But what we can't see is the same fucking bullshit we saw in Tampa. There needs to be some kind of improvement. There needs to be some kind of plate approach change. There needs to be something different because you can't go into Houston and with that same bullshit that they did against Tampa because they'll be 0-6. Like real fast. Real fast. And when you get to 0-7, 0-8, go look at historically teams that start 0-6 or 0-7, 0-8. Like those teams are usually historically bad teams when they start that many games at 500 quick. So calm down. Quit freaking out. You guys have every right to be pissed. I'm pissed. Those 3 games were a joke. Those 3 games were pathetic, and we're seeing the offense be like the offense was last year. But realize it is 3 games. 3 games into a 162-game season. This team is is different than last year. They're trying to figure out who's playing where. That's why Scope isn't starting every single day. That's why Maton didn't even start opening day. They're trying to figure out these pieces. They're trying to figure out who's going where. Because remember in 21, guys, Hinch got this team to win 77 games in 21 with a roster that was way shittier on paper than what this was. You know why he did that? Because he was able to figure out where to put guys where. And he got good offensive performances out of a few guys, and he was able to piece his lineup together. He knew where to mix and match guys. He knew what bench guys to put where, utility guys to put where, to get the most out of that team, the most out of that roster, and have a decent team. And I think that's the whole thing right now. You have so many guys and so much utility, where so many guys can play so many places that Hinch is just trying to figure this out. He's trying to figure out his best matchups. He's trying to figure out the best guys to put where and when to put them there, against what kind of pitchers, so they can get the most out of this roster of guys so they don't score 600 fucking runs again and have one of the worst offenses in MLB history. So here's to hoping. Those first 3 games were horrible. You have every right to be mad, but stop acting like there's some kind of expectations to make the playoffs or be a wildcard team, because there fucking wasn't. This team sucks. They're gonna suck. If they win 75 games, that's an improvement, but it doesn't mean they don't suck, because they do suck. Just flat out. But calm the fuck down after 3 games, because it's 3 games. What we need to see is a progression, and what we need to see is this team starting to take steps to show that this isn't going to be a team that wins 45 games this year. Because that first 3 games definitely did look like they did. But here's to fucking hoping they can win a game in Houston. I hope, guys. So I got for you guys today. Calm down. It's 3 games. Let's hope they can take one in Houston. Go Tigers.